Today we welcome Mr. Brian Bruckner, president of Bruckner Truck Sales. Brian grew up in the heavy truck industry, working in the family-owned dealership from the age of 12. After graduating from Southwestern University, he started working full-time for Bruckner Truck Sales and worked at the Fort Worth location for 10 years. In 2001, he was promoted to general manager of Amarillo location and succeeded his father, Bain, as president in 2007. Brian is now a co-owner of the business with his brother, Chris. Bruckner Truck Sales, very interesting, is primarily a Mack truck and Volvo trucks franchise dealership group that has grown to cover over 30 locations in 6 states. And I will read the states, of course, Texas, Kansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Colorado. So it's a pretty heavily, a very interesting area. They also have a subsidiary companies, Bruckner Leasing, BTE Body, Turnkey Truck Sales. Currently, Brian is serving the industry as truck chairman of Texas Automobile Dealers Association and vice chairman of MAC North American Dealer Advisory Council. He recently completed 2 terms on the board of Amarillo Economic Development Corporation, which is our local entity, very important in our area. And he also serves as advisory board president for Panhandle Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Again, welcome. Thanks so much for giving us this opportunity. Let me read a few things from the trucking industry. After that, I will ask you 3 questions. I got this data from the American Trucking Associations. As we were visiting before the interview, 71% of the nation's freight by weight moves through trucks. The industry revenues start at $796 billion. That's a pretty big amount. 36 million trucks are registered for business purposes. Of course, it excludes government and farm. And the industry employs 3.5 million truck drivers as of 2018. So all this data tells us that, and as we were discussing, the trucking industry is a very important part of marketing, logistics, and distribution. And your company deals with Volvo Group, which has Mack and Volvo. And of course, the changing trends and all these activities happening in the industry are pretty amazing. I would like to read from a recent journal article which was published in 2020. And this is ILR review published from Europe. And it says, media accounts predicting the imminent loss of millions of truck driving jobs are overstated. So, of course, autonomous industry and autonomous trucks are coming in, but we still need people and we still need the industry. So let me come back to my 3 questions. And my 3 questions, the first question I have is, so how did you start this company? Give us some history and its evolutionary growth.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Anwar. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit about Bruckner Truck Sales and our relationship with the industry and how we fit into that industry structure and what you talked about with the importance of trucks and transportation to our overall economy. We've been in business 88 years, so I'll try to give you a brief history because it could be a really long history if we weren't careful. But my grandfather started in business here in Amarillo, Texas, in 1932. Wow. So we've been in business for 88 years. We're a 3-generation business and have always been based here in Amarillo. My grandfather started and if you know your history of the area, it was the middle of the Great Depression and the middle of the Dust Bowl, and so he was he was a very entrepreneurial guy. He had lost his job and had two little kids to feed, and so he decided to start his own business and go to work. He was attracted to trucks and heavy trucks and distribution, and so very early on he shifted his focus towards that industry. He felt like that would be where growth would be, and it would be a good profitable business for him to be in, and just you think about those days, that was before there was an interstate system.
That's right.
That was before, a lot of the modern things that we think of today as far as truck transportation and the way goods were moved about. But in those days, the primary mover of goods would have been the railroad. And so they were moving tremendous amounts of, cattle and grain and lumber and all those things by railroad in those days. And so he moved into that business and became a franchise Mack truck dealer, and so we're the oldest franchise Mack truck dealer west of the Mississippi.
Wonderful.
So that's that I guess is a highlight for our business. But we've grown from a lot with that brand, and as a franchise truck dealer, we're the intermediary between the manufacturer and the customer, and so we handle that exchange and take care of that equipment. We sell it to the customer. We provide the service and support for that vehicle. We provide all the parts and all those things that you think of, maybe similar to what you think of in a car dealership.
That's right.
Is what we do for heavy trucks in the business to business environment versus a business to consumer environment. My dad joined the business in the 50s, and at that time, most franchised, whether it was cars or trucks or heavy equipment, they said one location for one franchisee.
That's right.
And so you weren't allowed to expand beyond one location, and so we had the one location here in Amarillo for a long time with Mack trucks. And in the in the 80s was when we really began to see consolidation in our industry, and so you begin to see dealership groups where we would look for neighbors to buy. The factories at that time had manufacturers had branch locations, and they began to sell off those branch locations. And my dad really recognized that opportunity and began to go out and put together groups of locations. And so my brother and I joined the company as we graduated from college, and it's been a great benefit for us and our family to be a part of this industry and be able to support trucks and truckers and grow our business and continue on that on that path that my grandfather and my dad started. So.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's move towards marketing, since I teach marketing, and in the area of marketing, a lot of things are happening, but trucking industry plays a very important role, distribution and logistics. So the question I have is, how does Bruckner deals with today's fast-changing trucking industry and its market opportunities, and above all, customer support? Because customers are somewhat different from regular customers who buy, cars. So can you explain more about that?
Yeah. There's a big difference between you think of kind of the B2B world from the B2C world, the business to business versus business to consumer, and so I think if you think about your car, I mean, we all rely on our car and we need that car, but if we're in business and we're relying on that truck and we've got a load that's got to be at a certain place at a certain time, then that is and the kind of investments that our customers have made in their vehicles and their businesses, that it becomes even more critical that we provide that support and personalized support and support them in their business. I think in that area, as we look at trucks and trucking, the advancements in the connection that we have with computers or with technology to our customers is become greater and greater, where we're more joined into their business than ever in a lot of ways, and so we're able to watch the operation of those trucks in real time.
Yes.
And see as issues come up with those vehicles and respond in real time. And so we'll actually receive notification from a customer's truck that truck has a potential problem or issue.
Okay.
If that issue would cause a truck down situation that might cause them to have to pull over on the side of the road and call a tow truck, then we we monitor that. We know that we're us in partnership with the manufacturer, we're able to direct those customers to locations to have those repairs taken care of.
Okay.
We monitor the trucks for their performance. So we're constantly monitoring and looking at those trucks to evaluate performance for the customer.
I see.
When we look at our customers, they have 4 really pretty large expense categories.
Okay.
And so we look for ways that we can address those 4 expense categories because it's a highly competitive industry. I mean,
yes, of course.
Trucking is a pretty cutthroat.
That's right.
Pretty cutthroat business. And so the first of those is driver wages and expenses, the cost of turnover in the driver pool.
That's right.
The second of those is fuel economy.
Yes.
The third is repairs and maintenance on that vehicle, and the fourth, and becoming an even larger one, is insurance. And so, in our support of trucks and truckers and companies in that industry, we try to address all 4 of those areas. And so we as far as drivers and driver turnover, we work with that customer to develop a driver environment and a system to take care of those drivers to make sure that they've got an advantage when they're attracting drivers.
Sure,
so that
absolutely.
they're able to manage and work with their drivers to create a great environment. As far as fuel economy goes, we're constantly monitoring those vehicles to dial in to what is the best vehicle for their operation. So we're able to see how it's being operated. We're able to look at the fuel economy. We know massive amounts about how that truck is running and how it's being operated, and are able to help the customer analyze
So you are
that.
dealing with lots of data every day, every minute. And
Absolutely.
that is part of the real-time data and economy. So let me read my notes because this is what we teach in marketing and logistics and distribution. So the trucking industry is dealing with model cycle transition, use of data analysis, interestingly, predictive maintenance, as you correctly mentioned, because while the driver is driving his truck, you have that data available in front of you. You are also going to be dealing with the real-time technologies, autonomous vehicles. In some industries, it may happen. You are dealing with the telematics solutions, how to come up with the right strategy so it can benefit your drivers. And urban logistics is a very big area. More and more construction will be happening. And then when it comes down to route optimization and load monitoring and hub and spoke and track and trace. I mean, as you correctly mentioned. But at the end of the day, you are also now started to deal with sustainability. Emissions, and the manufacturing companies are very much concerned about dealing with all the sustainability issue, and then regulations are coming in. So this is a very big
That's a
area.
long
So
list.
my question is, how do you deal with that? Because we only deal with the auto industry and maybe supermarkets, and we think that we are living in real time and so much technology. But when we look at all these things I mentioned, I think your industry is highly, highly regulated and impacted. So can you explain some of the things?
Yeah, well, Dr. Anwar, you mentioned a lot of really important trends in our business, and I don't know that I can hit on every one of them, but
Okay.
I'll try to hit on some that I think are pretty key, and that as a dealer that I probably have more impact
Okay.
on. and a representative of the manufacturer, and so I think the first you mentioned was connected truck and
Yes,
big data,
that's right.
and so more and more we're harvesting massive amounts of real time operating data off
I see.
trucks, and so the Volvo group that we represent has actually had a connected truck for over 4 years now, close to
I
5
see.
years, and so they have several thousands, hundreds of thousands of trucks that are operating that they're constantly monitoring and collecting that data.
I see.
And so it gives us a huge amount of insight into how that truck's being operated, how the driver patterns, how the driver's operating that truck, the road conditions and how that affects operation of the truck. We're able to work with that company to maximize their fuel economy, to maximize their safety. We and really do deep dives down into the analytics of what's going on with that truck, and
Okay.
and that also includes the maintenance and the repair.
That's
and
right.
So we're sort of on the cusp of that predictive repair point of doing predictive repair. We've been kind of where the industry's been for the last few years is what they call an uptime approach, where they're monitoring the truck. When the fault code comes up with the truck, it's automatically relayed to a data center that analyzes what's going on and tries to route that truck into appropriate repair facility if it needs repair. And we're just now starting to do get over into the point that we're looking for areas that we know that there's going to be an issue and repair that truck before there's actually a breakdown. If if you look at our customers and their expense, when anytime there's a truck down on the side of the road, that's a huge expense.
That's right.
It's thousands and thousands of dollars. It's misloads. It's
Sure.
Your Amazon shipment didn't get to your
Absolutely.
house on time because the
Absolutely.
truck was broken down on the side of the road. And so it's for the industry, that's a huge step forward, as we're able to monitor and take care of that. The second area that I think you mentioned that I think is important is autonomous trucking.
Yes.
And so we're going through stages now towards fully autonomous trucks. And so if you think about the first stage in autonomy was cruise control. And,
That's right.
We've had cruise control on cars since the 60s and
That's right.
cruise control on trucks since the 90s. But we're on a path towards an autonomous truck. And I don't really believe that, that necessarily does away with drivers or driving jobs.
Okay.
But it creates environment you think more like an airline, where the driver is an airplane and a commercial airline.
That's
where
right.
the pilot is more monitoring and taking care of that plane.
That's right.
Instead of actually flying the plane the whole time that he's in the cockpit. And so we begin to see that coming together really pretty quickly with some of the technologies that are on trucks today. So where we have the safety technology, the braking systems that automatically brake, and lane departure systems that tell if the truck is
Sure.
moving in or out of a lane, and those various safety systems, and that coupled with the steering systems that are starting to come on trucks now, technology where is steer-by-wire technology.
That's right.
To manipulate that steering as we start to come towards autonomous trucks, fairly quickly. The other area that you mentioned is that I think is going to be a huge impact on trucks and trucking, and is affected a lot by dealers and manufacturers, and really the whole industry is the alternative fuel type technologies.
That's right.
And so I think we in our industry a few years ago, we had the experiment with natural gas, and there's still a lot of trucks running with natural gas, but it wasn't totally widely accepted. We're right now we're starting to see a lot of electric vehicles, and I think there's a huge push in electric vehicles. And
That's right.
And so we have the established players in the market, like we represent Volvo or Mack or other brands or Freightliner or International, and everybody is keyed towards developing and getting electric vehicles into the marketplace,
I see.
and several are out running today. In fact, we'll we'll actually have the ability to order electric vehicles beginning next year.
I see.
And so it's coming into the marketplace really pretty quickly. I think a company out there that's a pretty big disruptor in our marketplace would be Nikola.
Nikola, yes.
And they've been developing a hydrogen truck,
Yes.
and that, a lot of ways that seems to be where I know a lot of car companies that
Yes.
see that as sort of an end goal, and the truck manufacturers are working on hydrogen solutions. So that may ultimately be the fuel that we see that would take the marketplace.
So these all the developments are very big in at the end of the day what we call sustainability and helping the society. So basically, when you deal, so what are the two most important things you would predict in the next 6 to 8 years in the trucking industry? Auto industry we can easily predict, but this industry is kind of hidden. What do you see happening on the part of big manufacturers like Volvo?
I know that there will be a transition to alternative fuels. I think that where we've seen on the consumer vehicles, cars, and light trucks, and the move to more sustainable fuels will continue, and the pace of that will increase. So I see that as something that by segment happens pretty quickly. So we see it first in short haul and local type delivery, and then begin to see regional haul, and ultimately it's probably the available infrastructure to be able to have that electric vehicle on a long haul situation.
That's right. So when we look at those new truck stops, do you think they will have the facilities to accommodate or deal with autonomous trucks? Because autonomous trucks are mostly for long haul, and they are not for city driving, and that's what I was reading somewhere. Any comments on that?
I'm not in the truck stop business, but I think it definitely I know there's entrepreneurs out there that'll look for those opportunities and determine their part in how that's handled. I know the basic need for goods in our country doesn't change. I mean, we still have to move products to the stores, and we have to move agriculture products to their through their distribution process, and manufacturing involves a lot of trucking, and so those things don't change. But I think as entrepreneurs, and whether it's myself as a truck dealer or the guy that owns the truck stops, I mean, we've got to adapt and figure out how we fit into that.
So in the product development process, are you also involved? Are you invited to participate in some of the meetings like Volvo Trucks or some big manufacturers?
I think not directly.
Okay.
We're involved with the manufacturers as far as providing them feedback.
Okay.
We're a conduit for the customers and our customer base to communicate their needs to the manufacturer, and that would be how we're involved in that process, and then vice versa. We help our customers adapt to that new technology and introduce that to them, and train them on new technologies, and so I see us as the pipe, as the conduit back and forth to help make the industry go.
So you are kind of in some areas kind of an interface connecting both parties. I see. Very interesting. There is one question. I would like to ask. So the industry is over 700 $96 billion. That's a very big part of the United States economy, which is over $20 trillion. When we drive on freeways, we always spot trucks. In fact, in some areas, trucks are everywhere. So, do you see this trend happening because dealing with infrastructure and roads, because that plays a very important role in marketing, logistics, and distribution? So, is it a very big area when we're dealing with the truck industry?
That when you're going up and down the highways, and here in Amarillo we travel up and down I-40 a lot, and so we see a tremendous number of trucks there, and we have a lot of customers involved in that segment of the industry, and so that segment of the industry is the what we think of as long haul trucking. It's the the movement of goods from port to port, or foodstuffs from the meat packing plant to the distribution center, or those type operations, and I think that logistics model, there's a lot of change in that logistics model right now. I know a lot of companies out there are trying to figure out how to tap into that. There's a model of freight brokerage in this country where a lot of freight brokers control how that logistics happens, how those goods are moved back and forth, and so I don't know a lot about that area because we don't directly involve in that, but I do I do see that there's a huge opportunity out there for technology and how that space is controlled by technology.
And then digitization is coming in, and blockchain activities on the part of trucking companies. One last question. So do you anticipate some kind of consolidation when we deal with the manufacturers? Like there are many brands we have in the industry in the next 6, 7, 8 years, just to deal with the scale and scope and economies of scale, and to bring the cost down. Since you mentioned there are new players coming in like Nikola and Aurora and all these electric vehicles. Any comments on that?
I'd anticipate that some of the new entrants may partner up or be be merged or absorbed into some other companies. I know Tesla. Well, not Tesla. Nikola is working on a partnership with GM.
GM, yeah, that's right.
And Rivian is out there, and some others.
That's right.
As far as our existing truck manufacturers, there's really 7 primary brands in the United States, but there's 4 manufacturers.
That's right.
And so there's the Volvo Group, there's International, there's PACCAR.
That's right.
And there's Freightliner, that's part of Daimler Corporation.
That's right.
And really, all 4 of those are huge multinational operations. They have operations in Europe and Latin America and Asia and even to in some degree in Africa, although their transportation system's not near as developed. But
I see.
But based on that, I don't know that at least in the next few years, foresee a merger between any of those groups, because they are so well established as multinationals that they're well capitalized enough to develop a lot of these technologies in their own channel.
I see. Well, I think we thank you again for all your wonderful comments. We can read in the books, and students, when they go to classes, they only look at the trucking industry as service providers, but behind the scene, the industry is going through major structural shift. So many technologies are merging. We may look at iPad or iPhone or some of the computer IT issues. I think your industry is heavily dealing with all the brand new technologies, and we will, I think, see more changes coming in the pipeline, hopefully in the next 8 to 10 years. But thank you so much. Very interesting industry. At the end of the day, I tell my students, when you eat in morning your breakfast or when you have your dinner or lunch, you need to remember who delivered it. Because it did not come to your grocery store automatically.
Yeah.
In between the value chain and the pipeline, if you look at the value chain, trucking industry role is very important. That's why it's over $800 billion industry. And what we believe is it will continue to grow because we are all becoming a heavily consumer-oriented society. And online retailing is a very big issue, and somebody has to deliver. And if you look at all the freight forwarding agencies and FedEx and UPS, but behind those companies, trucking industry plays a very important role. Thank you so much, and we hope that you visit us in future. And all the best and good luck in your industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar.
Thank you.
That's great.